Hello everyone, welcome to the next chapter in the turbulent love story between CEO James and the strong-willed girl named Diep. In the previous episode, after a long battle with illness, Diep was finally allowed by her doctors to return home and recuperate. It seemed like the beginning of peaceful days beside the man she loved, but things were far from simple. Tung, the man who had silently watched over Diep, no longer hid his feelings. This time, he openly declared war on James, determined to win Diep back. "I gave you a chance once, but this time, I won't step back." Meanwhile, James had overcome the biggest crisis of his career. He exposed John, the traitor and corrupt employee in his company, bringing him to justice with a heavy sentence. Everything seemed to be settling down. But then, a secret from Diep's past involving her ex-husband was suddenly revealed. And this time, James' mother reacted harshly. It didn't stop there. Tung quietly helped John escape from prison, forming an alliance with an old enemy to take James down. A plan was set in motion, a battle not only of love, but of honor and survival. Will James and Diep be able to weather this storm? Is their love strong enough to withstand the web of schemes closing in? And Tung, once thought to be just a third wheel, could he become the real threat? Stay tuned for today's video to find out what happens next in this gripping story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss upcoming episodes. Although she knew very well that James truly loved Diep and she herself had once grown fond of the girl, who was gentle, kind, and always respectful as a mother, she couldn't blindly trust someone without understanding her future daughter-in-law's past. While Diep was in the hospital, James had officially proposed to her and informed his mother of his intention to hold a wedding. The news brought her both joy and unease. She was happy that her son had finally found someone he genuinely loved, but that only made her more cautious. Without telling James, she quietly hired a private investigator to look into Diep's background, not out of suspicion, but because she needed to know who exactly was the woman who would walk beside her son for the rest of his life. And then, the fateful call came one rainy afternoon. The detective's voice rang clearly through the phone. "Ma'am, I've completed the investigation. Ms. Diep was married at the age of 16, legally underage at the time. Her former husband was a reckless alcoholic who often abused her. They lived together for 4 years and had no children." Mrs. James froze. That's not all. When her husband brought his mistress already pregnant into their home, Ms. Diep was forced out. But the most serious part is this: she was once accused by her ex-husband's family of stealing their land deed and pawning it for money. A long silence filled the room. Her hand tightened around the phone. In her mind, the image of the sweet, well-mannered Diep was suddenly torn apart by a scandalous and complicated past. Is it true? Everything she showed us was just a facade? Does my son even know? A storm of emotions surged within her: pain, disappointment, and fear. Not just for James, but for the entire family if this path truly turned out to be a mistake. After hanging up the phone, James' mother sat in silence for a long time. The revelations about Diep's past felt like an invisible storm, leaving her shaken, anxious, and torn. James was her only son, the one she placed all her hopes on. He was to inherit the family legacy, to carry on the family name and fortune. How could she feel at ease knowing that his future wife had once been entangled in a scandalous marriage and worse, had been accused of theft? And yet she was not a woman easily swayed by emotions. She knew that if she judged based on only one side of the story, she might not only hurt James deeply but also wrong Diep. After hours of contemplation, she took a deep breath, picked up her phone, and dialed James. "Mom, what's going on?" James asked, unaware of anything. "Son, invite Diep over for dinner tonight. I need to speak with both of you in private." James was caught off guard. "Is something wrong, Mom?" Her voice was calm, but there was a firm undertone. "Just ask her to come, we'll talk then." After the call ended, James felt uneasy. His mother rarely invited Diep over for dinner, let alone said she had something to discuss. Still, he did as she asked. He sent a message to Diep, "Come over for dinner tonight, okay? Mom said she has something she wants to talk to you about." Diep read the message, a flicker of confusion crossing her heart. But she quickly replied with a gentle smile, "Sure, I'll be there." In recent days, Diep's health had improved significantly. She took the opportunity to harvest vegetables from her garden to sell at the market and earn a bit of income. When she received James' call saying his mother had invited her over for dinner, Diep was momentarily surprised. She had no idea what it could be about. A sense of worrying suddenly stirred in her heart. Perhaps James' mother wanted to talk about the medical expenses from her treatment. She knew she had cost their family quite a bit during that difficult time. Without hesitation, Diep decided to gather all the money she had, though it wasn't much to bring with her. She just wanted to show her gratitude and, above all, preserve her dignity. Diep carefully picked a few of the freshest vegetables from her garden, neatly wrapping them in a small basket to bring as a gift to James' house. She didn't want to come empty-handed, not just out of courtesy, but also out of sincere gratitude toward his family. When she arrived, she greeted everyone politely and asked for permission to enter. James' mother welcomed her with a warm smile. The two sat in the living room, exchanging a few light conversations. The atmosphere at first was cozy and pleasant. James' mother asked about her health and gently reminded her to rest more and avoid overworking. Diep responded softly, just as respectful and composed as always. After a while, she reached into her bag and took out a small envelope of money, placing it on the table with quiet resolve. "Ma'am, I know my hospital stay was a burden to you and James. This isn't much, but I'd like to contribute a little toward the medical costs. When I'm in a better position, I'll repay the rest." James' mother paused, momentarily taken aback. Sitting before her was a frail young woman, yet her eyes were filled with sincerity. No complaints, no avoidance, only gratitude and dignity. She gently pushed the envelope back toward Diep and said kindly, "Keep it, dear. Your health is what matters most. You should use that money to take better care of yourself. Everything we did for you was from the heart. No one is keeping score." Something inside her began to soften. The doubt stirred by the private investigator suddenly didn't match the girl sitting in front of her, so polite, so thoughtful, and so genuine. Seeing that it was already late and knowing Diep lived far away, James' mother invited her to stay for dinner. Then, cheerfully, she stood up and made her way toward the kitchen. But Diep quickly followed, speaking gently. "Please let me help, ma'am. You should rest. I usually cook at home anyway." James' mother stopped in her tracks, then smiled and nodded. From the living room, she glanced into the kitchen, watching Diep move skillfully, cleaning and preparing the meal with both care and cleanliness. The familiar kitchen somehow felt warmer, livelier. She thought to herself. A girl like that, how could anyone not come to love her? Just as dinner was being laid out, James returned home from work. The moment he stepped inside, he saw Diep setting the table while his mother sat in the living room with a gentle smile on her face. He paused for a moment, taking it all in. The scene struck him. For the first time, the two most important women in his life were quietly building a true home together. The three of them gathered around the dinner table. The atmosphere was warm and intimate. The distance, the formality, it all seemed to melt away. Every now and then, James' mother would place food into Diep's bowl, asking her a few thoughtful questions. James sat beside her, occasionally glancing at Diep with eyes full of tenderness. After dinner, the three of them moved to the sitting area to enjoy some tea. James gently spoke up, "Mom, I'd like to ask for your permission to move the wedding forward." Diep's health still isn't fully stable and I want her to live with me so I can take better care of her. The room fell quiet for a moment. Diep lowered her gaze, her hands tightening slightly around the teacup. James' mother stayed silent for a beat before slowly setting her cup down. Marriage is a serious matter. I'm not against it, but I'd like to speak with Diep alone, if that's all right. James nodded, concern flickering in his eyes but choosing not to press further. Diep glanced at his mother, then softly replied, "Yes, I understand." When there were only Mother James and Diep in the room, she went straight to the point about what she heard about her past. Was it true that she had been married since she was 16 years old and was not even old enough to register for marriage at that time? Diep's husband was a playboy and alcoholic, and she had lived with her ex-husband for 4 years and had no children. And when her husband brought his pregnant mistress home, she was kicked out of the house. She was even accused of stealing her ex-husband's house's land certificate to mortgage for money. She did not believe this because she had been in contact with her for a long time and she wanted to understand more about her personality and past. Talking about the past, Diep shared in a low voice that she was lost from her parents since she was little, adopted at the age of 16, sold to Pau's family to be a wife for the price of 2 buffaloes, and for 4 years at Pau's family before being redeemed and helped by James. She lived like a buffalo in that family, being abused, exploited, and tormented by her mother-in-law, being abused and beaten by her alcoholic husband, and when he brought his mistress home, he kicked her out. Life was like hell. And she did not take the red book of her ex-husband's house. The police investigated clearly that the person who took it was Linda, her ex-husband's mistress, and the child in Linda's belly was not Pau's, and the reason for not having children was because Pau was incapable of being a man. Hearing Diep's heartfelt story, James' mother could no longer hold back her emotions. The doubt in her eyes faded away, replaced by deep compassion and sorrow. She stepped forward and gently wrapped Diep in her arms. It was a warm, sincere embrace not just from a future mother-in-law, but from a mother who saw a daughter who had endured far too much pain. "Oh, my poor girl, from now on, no one is allowed to hurt you anymore. I promise I'll love you like my own daughter. I won't let you suffer a single day more." Diep froze, stunned. No one had ever held her like that before, and she had never heard the words "my daughter" spoken with such warmth. Her chest trembled and tears began to fall, unbidden. In that moment, the weight of the past seemed to lift. A new chapter was beginning for the first time. She felt like she truly belonged to a family. After her conversation with Diep, James' mother stepped out to meet her son. She looked at him, her voice soft. "Now I understand why you love Diep so much and why you've fought so hard to protect her." She paused for a moment, then continued, "I give you my blessing to marry her. But you have to promise me treat her well, never let her suffer again." James, moved by her words, nodded earnestly. "I promise, Mom." It was a quiet acceptance, but one filled with meaning. Now, nothing stood in the way of their love anymore. That evening, James and Diep shared a quiet moment together. He gently held her hand and softly said, "I won't let you suffer anymore. We'll have our wedding soon so I can take care of you every single day." Diep was so moved she couldn't find the words to speak. For the first time in her life, she felt the fullness of true love and the warmth of a real family. But elsewhere, Tung had secretly arranged for John's release from prison. Now, he was pulling John into a dangerous alliance with one goal: to bring James down and win Diep back at any cost. Will James and Diep's wedding go as planned? What sinister plans are Tung and John plotting next? Stay tuned for the next episode to uncover all the thrilling twists. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the latest video.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người. Mọi người ơi, thì mọi người đã theo dõi hết tập hôm nay. Và trong tập hôm nay thì mọi thứ dường như đã suôn sẻ hơn. Tuy là mẹ Diệp đã biết được quá khứ của Diệp, nhưng bà đã rất yêu thương và thông cảm cho cô nhiều hơn. Và thậm chí bây giờ cái tình cảm bà còn yêu mến và thương cô nhiều hơn là trước kia. Và bà cũng đã hiểu được tại sao là Diệp lại có thể yêu Diệp và che chở cho Diệp đến như thế. Vậy liệu cuộc sống của Diệp đã bước sang một trang mới thực sự hay chưa? Và cô có thực sự hạnh phúc bên James và đám cưới của họ có thể được tổ chức trong sắp tới hay không? Trong khi Tùng cùng với John thì lại đang lên kế hoạch để hãm hại James và Tùng phá hủy tình cảm của James và Diệp để cướp Diệp về tay Tùng. Vậy thì diễn biến tiếp theo sẽ còn phức tạp như thế nào và Diệp và James sẽ cùng nhau vượt qua khó khăn như thế nào để có thể có một cái kết trọn vẹn, thì mọi người hãy cùng đón xem vào video sau nhé. Nhớ đăng ký kênh để không bỏ lỡ bất kỳ video nào mọi người nha.